if an individual is experiencing shame, what are they doing wrong or what are they not doing to overcome it?
Ooh, amazing question. So the first thing is they're doing nothing wrong, because shame is something that's given to you. So shame is not something that we tend to sort of manufacture ourselves. You know, you could say do something and feel a bit ashamed, like, oh, I fell over in front of people and I was trying to impress someone. And, you know, but that's like a bit more embarrassed, ashamed. Shame is something that, you know, something's happened to you. Like, shame is a stain that's left on your soul after trauma. I see people all the time that have been the victims of all different kinds of trauma. Like, let's go for betrayal as an example, because this is quite like relevant. I was doing a big interview this morning about it for some press, and I see a lot of people, very wealthy people, like self-made billionaires, incredibly successful people, that have so much shame and they were betrayed by someone else. And you're like, well, that person was the one that dealt the blow. They were cruel to you, but they end up with, how could I have been so stupid? How could I have allowed this to happen? Or even I've heard, I needed to do more to save the relationship, or I should have been better in some way. So even though they were the ones that experienced pain from somebody else, they then take on the shame. You can take on shame from something you've witnessed. You can take on like secondhand humiliation, and that can become something shameful. And then the other thing that more typically tends to happen is something's happened in our childhood, right? And we have the child's brain. We only have like 7-8 years of experience to apply to a scenario. So we don't fully understand it. And something happens and you have to apply your sort of life knowledge with the event. Like, I have a lot of male clients come to me who were shamed at school by a teacher. I mean, and this is like huge shame that they carry around, which impacts everything. How they show up or don't show up in a relationship, work, you know, doing something like you're doing right now, using your voice, putting yourself out there, boundaries, standing up for yourself, finding a role within a big family or something like that. And the amount of times that it's been a teacher that maybe they didn't know they were dyslexic or something like that, or just nervous, and made them read in front of the class and then shamed them. And that's a grown adult human person in a caring profession that's chosen to work with children, who is standing there and shaming someone who evidently needs help. However, we take that on, and people spend their whole life with these lenses on of, I am stupid. Shame is always an I am. It's a felt sense. It's deep. It's that horrible, icky, deep feeling in your stomach. And so you go around in life thinking, I am stupid, or I am a failure, or I am nervous, or whatever somebody said to you in that context. I am wrong.
Yeah. Do we ever have the opportunity, not that we seek it, to put shame on self? Like, is it always coming from an external source?
I think we tend to experience shame quite young in some way, and then we have it revalidated. So
through adulthood and whatnot.
Completely. Through poor relationships, through experiences that revalidate that I'm stupid. I mean, for myself, I'm really happy to talk about this quite openly. It's all in the book. But I had a very violent childhood. My father was very, very violent. And there was one particular incident where he punched me in the face in a restaurant. My nose just obviously bled everywhere. I was 7 years old. Yeah. And my mother wasn't at the meal. It was on a holiday in Spain. My younger brother was there. And he told me, because he had been very violent to me and was violent to me throughout my childhood, that I made him do it because I was so bad. Now, I'm a kid. I felt inside it wasn't right, but I'm told by my caregiver, who's put on this earth to love me, and, you know, I must be so bad. I must be so unlovable. I must be so awful that this person has done that to me, because no one else is having that experience. No other kids in this restaurant are going through that. It's just me. I must be so terrible that I've made this happen. So I then spend my whole life thinking I am bad. And you can imagine the relationships that I chose, the things I did or didn't do, the ways that belief got revalidated. Work, jobs, bosses, things like that, environments that I worked in. My mother also colluded. She backed my dad up. She never stood up for me. So I had no safe person in my home. You know, I was isolated and just this bad kid, apparently. So for me, that shame was given to me. And obviously it should never have happened. And my daughter, I keep a picture of her at that age in my office all the time for any clients coming in, but we hold this sense of, oh, but maybe I did back chat. Maybe I was a bit gobby, maybe I was a bit too much and I need to dim it down and rein it in. And so that's the effect that shame is having on us throughout our life.
You've clearly done the work though, because you walked into the studio today and it was all men and like you were just like super chill.
Yeah. I love
right?
it.
Like that story that you just shared do you feel like it impacts you in any way today? Like,
thankfully not, but it used to impact me every day, like every day. And if we were having this conversation like 5 or 6 years ago, I would be charming and chatty and I still would have said hi to everyone, but I would have been much more like contained.
Yeah.
It would have been a bit more of a facade. It would have been me, but I would have been still trying to make sure you didn't really see me. I would be trying to be perfect. I'd be trying to make sure that all of you thought I was perfect and polite and almost like get away with it, like get out of here without anyone really finding out who I was or what was going on underneath the hood or anything like that. And, we haven't prepped. I don't know what you're going to ask me. I don't know where we're going. And I don't mind because there is absolutely no shame within me at all. So I don't mind where we go with this. I loved having a chat with the boys. Like, I really enjoy that and I enjoy those situations. But yeah, thankfully, I no longer have any shame in my system, but I really feel like I've had 2 lives and one that I was full of shame. So like a shameful existence. And now I have a truly shameless life. And I'm 44 in like 2 months. And I honestly believe that my life is absolutely beginning right now.
Do you feel like those things, the overwhelming life experiences, the moments of shame, the traumas, whatever you want to refer to it as, like, while we don't want to experience it, like, what's your view on that being like a divine order that you had to experience in this lifetime?
I do believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, I do believe that was the cards that I've been dealt. I've had quite a dynamic life, we can call it that. I don't want to say hard. You can, because the thing is, if that's how I choose to make peace with it, because if I didn't, I could be in victimhood and I could spend time, why me? Why did that have to happen to me?
Were you ever in that?
I don't think so. I would explain it to people like, we talked about your lovely dog.
Yeah.
You've got your lovely dog, Draco. And I would explain it like, look, people go, oh, that's so bad about your parents. And why don't you speak to them? Because I have no contact. Why don't you speak to them? And I'd be like, the thing is, you have a lovely dog. And if you didn't have him anymore, you'd be really sad and you'd miss him.
Absolutely.
Because you've got an amazing relationship. I never had that. Like, I didn't have this closeness. I never felt supported. I sometimes say, like, I honestly think I'd be running Goldman Sachs. I really do. Like, if the fact that what I've managed to make from, frankly, like, negative balance, I'm really proud of myself. And sometimes that's maybe the wondering that I sometimes do, is I wonder where I could have gone. But then that's not my path. My path is this. And who knows where I'm going, right?
That's so good to say.
Who knows?
Did you ever feel like you were using your pain to drive you?
100%. And I didn't realize it. So I now know very clearly that, trauma. So for me, home is not safe. What's my thought process? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And like never, ever, ever coming back. Right. So I was out running. I was trying to sprint out my trauma. So I didn't go to university or college first time around, but I have a master's degree. I have an MBA. So I had to do that like, I got the job to earn the money to be able to go into a rental, like flat, a flat share at that time of life, to get out of there. So I never had to go back. I did my master's degree part-time while I was working. I think about how on earth I did that now, but I did. You just get through, you just get on with it. But the reality is I was sprinting this marathon and then I ended up having this huge burnout when I was 29, massive. And it wasn't until, I don't know if you've had a burnout.
I feel like I have it sporadically through life, like seasonally. There's like some seasonal burnout. In fact, this week, beginning of the week, I was like, holy shit, I'm in a marathon week.
Yeah.
Right. So like I definitely experience it now and then.
Yeah. And it's like, it's not a big thing you can't handle. It's a tiny thing and that's it. You're gone. Yeah. You're like over the edge. It's like, I literally can't cope with this, So I had this huge burnout and I basically was very humbled by it. I had my ass served back to me and it was like, you can't keep outrunning this thing because my body, my system, I'm going to stop you. And that was really when I entered like the coaching space. A really good friend of mine did a coaching session with me. And at the time, it's like 15 years ago, this is a bit weird and woo. Like Wendy Rose wasn't being her kinky self on Billions. Like it wasn't a cool thing.
Oh, don't reference Billions. I love Billions. Right. So good.
She made my life very easy explaining what I did.
Yeah,
like
there you go.
Have you seen Billions? They're like, yes. And the second question is, and are you? And I'm like, you have to find out. Like, so, yeah, let's find out. Yeah. So that made my life, explaining my work easier. But at that time it was really weird and woo. And you'll know whenever you start doing something different that is not yet established, everyone calls it wacky and weird.
Of course. Yeah.
Why are you doing that? Or it's going to fail or whatever. And then until they see it working for you and they're like, can you tell me how you do that thing? Because I can see that you're really happy and it's going well. So that was kind of my path outside of corporate and moving away from burnout. But yeah, I was 100%, I now realize, trying to outrun my trauma because I had huge imposter syndrome. Every day I honestly thought the police were going to turn up, but not like the feds, like the fraud police, and be like, who the fuck do you think you are? Come on, love. Like, let's go back to like your childhood street. You don't deserve any of this. Like, this is not a piece of you. You're just a fraud, basically. And I lived with that fear, which drove me. And it drives a lot of my clients. There is a drive that can come from these like limiting spaces. Not always, but that definitely can happen. And then, like I say, then I got really humbled and I had to go, okay, well, that helped me to this point, but I now need to like look in the mirror.
What would you suggest for an individual listening to this that is potentially being fueled by pain today? Which, by the way, I don't think is the worst thing in the world. Like, hey, if you're being fueled, great. But what would your advice be to an individual that's being fueled by their pain to like change their fuel source so that they don't hit the burnout or the rock bottom or whatever and then just be like stuck?
Yeah. So in performance coaching terminology, with like stress plus stress is distress, whereas stress plus rest is success.
Ooh.
Like it?
That's a good framework.
Yeah, it's nice, right? So because you have to, we need to work in like a renewal pathway. And so if you're just using pain as your fuel, it is going to quite literally burn out.
Yeah.
So it can be a great motivator. Like you listen to David Goggins, like my boyfriend's got teenage sons and he'll play it around the house on like the Sonos to like get them out of bed, like, come on boys, kind of the call to action, like teenagers get up. But yeah, like that can be a bit of a call to action. And his was from pain. And you hear all these amazing stories about, you can use pain as motivation, like this was me before, or, whatever you want to do, I'm out of this place, or this is how I'm maintaining sobriety, or wherever it may be, coming out of there. But I would say the rest piece with me, the stress plus rest, it has to be self-compassion. You have to be kind to yourself. You have to celebrate a good thing that you did. Because otherwise all you've got is the negative chatter, the inner critic, which is the little sort of chatbot that sits above your shame. Because we don't want anyone to see my shame. So a bit like I was saying, I need to be perfect, which means that I'm going to burn out from people pleasing or trying to present a side of myself that is impossible to maintain. It's an impossible standard to maintain. So the kindness, the rest that you can give yourself, it's not all like bubble baths and, that sort of self-care-y. It is self-care, but what does that mean to you? How can you be kinder to yourself today? If you're going to put some more muscle on or eat another couple of grams of protein, how can you add 2 grams of kindness into your day for yourself? How can you put 2 more minutes into celebrating a win? How can you put that into nurturing a relationship that you really value? Place it into a boundary for one that is causing you harm. How can you choose yourself that bit extra today?
Can shame coexist with something like self-compassion or self-love or?
No, but this is the best thing because self-compassion is the cure for shame. So
is that what you deployed?
Yes. So when shame, so I do EMDR, which is eye movement.
Yeah. I've tried that before. Interestingly enough, when I tried it, it wasn't in person. It was with tappers.
See, I won't do it unless it's in person.
Unless it's in person.
I will not do it. And I actually think I could be Bobby Axelrod if I did it online. I reckon if I sold, I haven't found, never say never. I haven't found the piece of technology that I would be happy to deploy online. But for me, the thing with trauma is when you are experiencing trauma, your prefrontal cortex goes offline and your broca's area, which is language. So prefrontal cortex, shopping lists, times, dates, cognitive thought. And you go into your amygdala or your limbic system or your animal brain, your prehistoric brain. So all of this is shut off. You're literally in fight, flight, freeze, or the other two, flop, pass out on the spot, or fawn, placate.
Yeah.
Calm down, placate, people please, to a degree. So this is what's firing, and I really need everyone to understand this, because this is where shame lives. You never, ever get to choose your response. Never. So let's just say you two, another guy in the studio here, let's just say someone came in right now, and you might think or hope that both of you would go into fight. It might not happen. It might be me. Yeah. And one of you might run. And then that would cause all these huge issues. Like, are you not really my friend? I can't believe you left me in that situation. One of you might freeze. And why didn't you answer back? Why didn't you say anything? You know, and the reason is this response was selected way faster than this cognitive thought. It's not available. But what is happening, clever system, is tagging away. It's remembering stuff. So like there's a lot of green in this room, for example. You're wearing green today. And I could then it could all be fine and turn out it was the wrong address or something, and be like, whew, that was a lucky escape. And I could be at home or somewhere, you know, going back to the UK, and I could see a flash of one of the colours in this room, and I could be back there in a second. I could be having an anxiety attack, and then I can be thinking, what's wrong with me? And then that's the start of me changing the way I live my life. Oh, I can't be in a restaurant because it makes me feel nauseous and panicked. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to start avoiding taking busy flights. You start seeing people changing their lives and how they live them. But the tagging, like I say, can be maintained in the background. So this is a long way of me explaining why I won't do it unless it's in person. If I'm opening someone up, if we're going into their trauma, there's a likelihood that some of the things that have been tagged are there and are not yet revealed or recognized. And I personally, if I'm unpacking you, I'm putting you back together before you leave. So that's why I don't do it online.
I like that. Talk to me about how compassion solves for shame.
So shame is the underlying limiting belief. And so some of the things I mentioned, mine was I am bad. The things that I hear in my office, I am disgusting, I am unworthy, I am not enough, I am helpless, I am hopeless, I am weak, I'm unlovable, I'm stupid, I'm wrong. Now people are living like I did with I am bad, with this belief, and they're seeing the world through that lens all the time. And the cure for this shame, which you think about is like a weed with really deep roots. It's been in your system usually for a long time. It has the opportunity to be revalidated, as we mentioned, and like reactivated. And the only way to remove shame is self-compassion. It's a different I am. I am brave, I am courageous, I'm kind, I'm loving, I'm worthy. It's very, very, very hard to generate self-compassion. Like I've told you a few things about me. I know you've had opportunities to read the book and get to know me a little bit, and through mutual friends of ours. But I imagine at times when I've been speaking, you've been like, she didn't deserve that. I feel bad for her.
I mean, like that 7-year-old story, like that's you. I'm a very emotional guy, and this gentleman's never seen me cry before. And I was like trying to fight those tears. I'm like, don't let it come out right now.
Nails in the palm.
Yeah.
Thank you, by the way.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, you can have that capacity of empathy for me.
Yeah.
You can have that compassion for me. And I could hear a story of yours and have the same response. But we really find it difficult to turn that much compassion for ourselves because we self-criticize. I was a bit like that. You know, like I said, but I did answer back, or maybe I was a bit too much. And so that eats into our self-compassion. But I want to give like yourselves and the listeners a tool, which is something amazing that you can use, because I'm very, very aware that to see me for a session or other people, not everyone has access to that. Like it's a privilege, and maybe don't have access. So one thing that you can do is, and the reason I keep a picture of Amber, my daughter, in my office, any scenario that you can imagine, I want you to rerun that. Niece, nephew, best friend's kid, your inner child, if you can connect to that. If it's a childhood event, if it's an adult event, put your best friend in that scenario. You rerun the entire script, you rerun the entire show, and you tell me if at any point that person did something wrong or they deserved it. And it's so
You're gonna make
different.
me show you this. My background.
Oh, it's your younger self.
It's my younger self. Second grade. First Holy Communion.
Gorgeous.
Right? I mean, I try to deploy what you're saying, and it's like when you're having that day where you're critiquing yourself or whatever it is, it's hard to like, and I'm always on this, unfortunately, but like, it's hard to open your phone and look at this and then not be like, yo, dude,
exactly,
chill out a little bit. So that's who, right?
Rerun any scenario where maybe you have a little bit of like, say, confusion even because you had a 8, 10, 12-year-old brain applying to certain situations.
Yeah.
And when you rerun that, especially with either if you can really connect into your inner child like you're doing, or like I say, a friend's kid, when you see their innocence and how they are. I mean, and the reason I keep the picture of Amber, there is nothing that girl could have done, not one thing to deserve what happened. And then the additional shaming afterwards. I mean, there's a story in my book, just trigger warning, I'm going to talk about sexual assault. So there's a very open account. There's a lot of my clients' accounts in there. And there's one about sexual assault at the hands of a school teacher when this person was 10. And the adult school teacher took them outside for swimming, sexually assaulted. And then the person in the book, their parent, their caregiver, when they had a dark mood, would strip them naked and place them out on the street outside. This is after the assault, knowing that, but it was never ever spoken about, ever, in the family home, despite them going to the police station and everything else, but would continue to perpetuate this horrendous sense of sexual shame, like an adolescent body that's already been violated. Yeah. I mean, it's just, so the things that can continue to happen. And this person, I was the first person they ever told in session. They'd held that shame in for 40 years.
Never voiced it.
Never voiced it. And incredibly, incredibly successful individual. Like exited their last company for tens and tens and tens of millions of pounds. They say themselves, their belief that they inhibited, the limiting belief was being unworthy. Because when they went to the police station, the police officer, who also happened to be a friend's dad, I mean, add that one to the like, when you're 10, said that paedophiles choose their victims because they're weak. And so embodying this weakness, embodying this unworthiness, and then work provided a great platform to validate being worthy. And you do get validated financially, accolades, of course, being told you're doing a great job, you're doing really well for the company here, that kind of thing. You get really real feedback.
I mean, even a paycheck is a form of a reward, right?
Totally.
Or validation.
You get almost instant feedback and you can increase it because you're getting higher salary and bonus and things like that. But again, not necessarily emotionally, spiritually or relationship wealthy in that. So, and had kept, like I said, kept that inside of them for so long. And then now they say they have to stop themselves talking about it at like cocktail parties. It's like, I mustn't mention that. Like, whereas before you know how you were saying, nails in palm? Yeah. Like, just please don't go near that. Please don't go near that subject. Turn it off if the TV strays onto a channel, that kind of thing.
It's interesting from my experience. Like once you find, it took me 27 years to like speak about stuff that I experienced in life. But after that 27th year and I finally let it out, like I'm talking about it so openly. It's interesting how that happens for people. Yeah. Right. But I'm curious, those limiting beliefs of, the I'm not enough or I'm disgusting or all of that stuff, from your experience, does that happen under the surface? Like, is that a subconscious type of thing? We do it unconscious? Like, give me your thoughts.
The more and more, like I've been in relationship with shame, basically, doing the book and studying it. And, I've really had to go over it in such detail, obviously, with the writing and everything. And the more and more time I spend with shame and talking about it, I think we are so ashamed of our shame. I think it's the thing that's bubbling under the surface all the time. Like, I don't know if you can remember how you felt before you spoke.
Oh my God, I was the most anxious person in the world. And don't get me wrong, like anxiety is a feeling that comes up normally for people, right? But yeah, I was a mess.
And then anxiety, a helpful definition can be that it's the inability to be in the present because you're either coulda, woulda, shoulda-ing over the past, guilt, or you're catastrophizing over the future by way of trying to control. Well, I don't want them to ask me about this, or I don't want to look like that, or I don't want them to guess, or, so you're just basically, it's effectively fake control, but you're trying your best in every avenue to maintain a certain image. And that's what's pulling and robbing you of your presence as well, this feeling of trying to kind of like lock it down. And for me now, like I feel unhinged most of the time in the most joyful way you could imagine, because there just isn't this sensation within me. So the reason I asked is I do believe that people, you maybe don't have the exact words for it. You maybe don't know your I am exactly, but you know that there's something you don't want people to go near. You know there's an area that if you're straying close to a certain subject, like, oh my God, we've got to go out with those people for dinner. And if they start talking about, like when my marriage was tanking, like I really don't want to, I'm going to see that friend. I haven't seen her for 8 months, and she's going to ask me how it's going. And I don't like lying. I don't want to lie to her. And then, oh my God, what am I going to do? And we'll just have to like, let's do an activity or pick a different subject, or I'll just ask her about something else instead. And I knew where I didn't want someone to go. I maybe wouldn't have had the exact language for the limiting belief, but I knew where I didn't want someone to go, and I knew I felt ashamed of that.
Is that the best way to identify if we have shame in self?
Yeah. Where is the place that you just really... I sometimes ask that to clients. What's the question you least want me to ask you right now?
What's the question you least want me to ask you?
Probably if I'm tired.
Well, you've been on the go. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
Are you tired?
I think I'm, so, you know, we talked about burnout. I think I'm a little, honestly, I think I'm a bit delulu at the moment. So I'm a little bit, I would suggest probably yes, but I almost can't feel it just yet. Yeah. So I'll get on the flight back to the UK tomorrow and probably go, oh.
Yeah. Well, how are you going to celebrate the release of the book, right? Because that's a form of compassion for all that you're doing now.
Yeah.
Right.
And all the parts of me that needed the healing. And honestly, I was sort of beginning to think about it because I've been everywhere, as you know, the last sort of 2 weeks, all over the States, having amazing conversations with great people like you. There is a little bit of me, if I'm completely honest, almost feels a little bit undeserving of like I'm signing the book at Barnes & Noble on 5th. We were talking about it the day it comes out. And that's like a real breakfast at Tiffany's, 5th Avenue, you know, an English girl going to do that. And it's like a real like, wow, you know, moment. And then there's a bit of me that's like, you don't deserve that. And it's not a loud voice. There's a little bit, just a little bit, which again tells me my warning lights on the dash that I'm not my normal self.
Interesting.
So that is now my indication that I'm probably a bit burnt out, because I can tell that if there was a very minor inconvenience, I don't know, like I missed a turning or I was 5 minutes late for you, I probably would be a bit emotional, if you know what I mean. And that's I now know myself well enough to know, okay, the warning lights on the dash. Yeah. When I get back, put in as much like practice, like the self-kindness, the self-care as I can to get myself back on track. Because for me, I'm sensitive, really sensitive.
I love that. Yeah. I'm so sensitive. Like I feel seen. All
the water signs as well. Like I'm hypersensitive, like, you know, but it's that kind of thing where it would be you'd stub your toe and I'd be in tears, and that's not me. So I know that I'm probably a little bit out of balance.
Well, is that voice that's popping up for you, like, is that an indication of how much energy you've been exerting toward this project? Or is it an indication of Annalie stepping into like a new version, like evolution?
So it's definitely both. And I love that you've asked that. I love that you've asked that. So one is, I have a little saying, which is ask me on a different day. Okay. So if you ask me that next week, I'd be like, yeah, you know, because I've slept, I'm at home, I've seen my kid, I've seen my cat, seen my boyfriend, you know, I've like got back into routine a bit, and I will feel more, we can call it resilient, but I'll feel more like me. So that is definitely a part of it. It's just the recognition, acceptance that right now, like, you know, I'm a little bit frazzled, and that's okay. But the other part of it is I'm about to break out of my comfort zone. And so the inner critic, the custodian of your comfort zone, which lives above shame, and its job is to keep shame locked away in the basement, like we're in the basement of a building right now. Yeah. So the inner critic is the little, like I say, custodian that's like patrolling your comfort zone all the time. And anytime you're about to bust out of that, anytime you're about to go on a date with someone for the first time, you're about to do a new podcast, say something out loud that you've never admitted to somebody, you're about to do something brand new, like go and sign a book that you've written or something like that, it's going to start having a go at you. Yeah. And it's louder and it's more able to get hold of you when your defenses are low. So like Sunday night doom scrolling, perfect example of maybe you've been out the night before, maybe, you know, maybe you're a little bit tired and emotional, we'll call it that, you know, work's looming on Monday, you're beginning to get that sense of dread, and you're like, oh, I'll just sort of numb out and doom scroll, and you find yourself comparing yourself to, oh, look at them, they're on their private jet, or they're doing this, or they've got that relationship. And like that to me is like, whoa, this isn't you. Like, let's just park this for today. What are the self-kindness things you can do? Early night, turn this thing off, you know, whatever it might be, put on a show that's going to make you laugh, like US Office, I go back to that, something like that, you know, just like what's going to make me laugh, and it's just jolly and fun, hasn't got another side to it, you know, that kind of thing. And then ask me on a different date, and the likelihood is it won't even be in my head the next day. But yeah, the inner critic, whenever you're about to bust out of your comfort zone will be really, really loud, because its job is to keep you safe.
Yeah.
And the only way it knows how to keep you safe is the known, aka what we've already experienced, aka our comfort zone, even if sometimes that's not a very nice place to be, but it knows it. So it's like, well, my job is to keep you here, so I need to keep you safe. I describe it as like an overbearing auntie.
Okay.
You know, do you need this? Can I get you a sandwich? Come on, what about this? You know, it's like, it's just, I just want to keep you safe. I just want to keep you safe. And it's done out of love, but it comes through in a really unskillful way, like the things it says to you. So yeah, for anyone listening, check in. Am I doing something major I've never done before? But I don't mean like an Iron Man or doing a book. I mean like...
That is major.
It is, thank you. But I want to just be encouraging to people listening that, you know, saying to a friend that you find a bit intimidating sometimes, actually, I can't come to your house on Friday. That is a big thing. You know, being about standing up for yourself for the first time. Like, you're going to have an attack of the inner critic before you do that the first time. And then you do it and you kind of go, oh, it was okay. And then you start building the muscle and then you can do it more and more. But yeah, so that is a good way to check in. If I'm about to jump off, if I'm on the precipice of a change, my inner critic is going to be loud.
I've asked this question a couple times on the podcast. I know you're going to have a great response. And honestly, I don't know what the response is going to be, but just from this conversation, I could tell. Do you think everyone is meant to heal?
I think they are meant to. I don't think everyone can or will. I love that answer. I think that we have the path, we have free will, we have the opportunity, and I've known and seen people that are presented with the opportunities and turn away. And that can be because they feel like they're in too much pain, and there are sometimes people that are the inflictors of pain, who are usually the most shame-driven individuals that just simply cannot ever stop to be with themselves because they feel almost a tsunami of shame behind them. They're just trying to outrun it all the time. I think we're all presented with opportunities to heal.
Do you, like, if you had the opportunity to speak to someone right now that was in denial of their shame, what would you say to them?
I would say it's causing you more harm. It's taking your peace. I would say than probably you realize. And I would also say you can absolutely, you've said it, I've said it, there is life on the other side of shame.
Yeah.
And it really is amazing. Like, you know, you just need to open up even to yourself. Tell the little you, put a thing on the mirror, look at yourself in the eyes and just say it out loud in the car. You know, this thing happened and I didn't deserve it. Or I'm having these thoughts and that makes me feel sad or uncomfortable. You know, and then from there you can open up even just like a little bit to a trusted friend. Don't say everything. Do you know what? I'm actually not feeling brilliant right now. Yeah. I'm having some feelings like I'm not really good enough, or I'm struggling at something, or not even that, I'm just not feeling great. And let someone step in and try and see you. But I know I was a master of not letting anyone see me. I would ask the question first. I'm a coach and a therapist. I'm really good at questions. You're an interviewer. Yeah. It's really easy to never tell a lie and be in relationship and in dynamic with someone, but also never show up. And I did a really good job of that.
When someone picks up Unapologetic, is it May 13th?
Yes.
May 13th, make sure you're grabbing it. Unapologetic, unshackle your shame, reclaim your power. If you were handing this to the younger version of Annalie, like, what would you want her to take away from the book?
Oh, that you're going to be okay. That it's okay. It all works out okay. Just that you're going to be okay. I was so lonely.
Talk to me about that. Like the isolation piece, I found that really interesting. Just like in preparation for this, like I always say that the core avatar of our audience here, like who listens to Decoding Success, are individuals who have felt like black sheep. They are the individual who felt neglected. They felt rejected. They felt isolated. They felt all of those feelings of just like outcasted from the crowd, right? And that obviously goes against our primal way of being. Yep. But talk to me about that isolation. Like, what was it that made you feel isolated as it pertains to shame? I mean, definitely my parents, in that one is violent, and so I'm in fear of pain. And then the other one is agreeing with the pain giver. So, you know, it is my fault. You're effectively I'm bad and I'm wrong.
And so what that does is you have no option but to isolate, because I can't meet my needs. I'm like 7. I can't like.
I would be impressed.
Yeah, I mean, I probably should have started hustling. I reckon I would have been all right, but like, I probably would have been okay. But yeah, you can't meet your needs. You have no option but to be there. I can remember, like, it was a bit like Matilda was like my life story. Like, honestly, that book used to make me so emotional, because I was waiting for my Miss Honey. I was desperate for anyone to come and save me, which of course later in life starts to manifest, right? As like, who's going to come and save me, or like bad bosses and, terrible jobs and other things. But yeah, I remember just this sadness of, like, I remember thinking, when are my real parents going to come and get me? I used to pray that I was adopted. I didn't think I could belong to these people, was the thought process I had, because it was like, I knew I wasn't a bad person, but I'm being told that. And just this horrible fear. And then that made me very shy. Like, I can still be quite shy now. Like, obviously you guys, and it's lovely. But in a romantic context, like when me and my boyfriend first met, and I think we're going out on like, the third date for like a nice dinner. And I said to him, I said, look, I know I'm going to come off a bit cold, and I don't mean it. Like, I'm not actually an ice queen, but I'm quite shy, and it's just going to take me like a margarita or an hour. Just give me margs and an hour. Yeah. And I'll be able to sort of like almost come back into my body, because it's just, I'm quite shy and nervous. I think that some of those things still live within me a little bit. But I think when you're isolated, you do become a bit of a shy kid. You do become... you pull back from life. You might physically be there. I had a client the other day, and it was an amazing session, and she was telling me about a particular time with her father when he would shame her, and she was talking about a particular picture that she'd had taken of herself, and she felt really pretty in it. She was tiny, like 4 or 5, and she remembered having a really nice outfit on, and she remembered feeling really pretty about herself for the first time. And then she brought the picture home from school, and her father was like, I bet you think you look pretty in that, don't you? And like, just completely shamed her in front of obviously people. And then something else happened where she got picked out of a crowd at like a show to come and, I don't know, like a magic show, to come and get involved. And she felt really special again. And I bet you loved that attention, didn't you? And then she said, every single school photo, every photo of her from there, this kid just looks broken. Just look, and almost looking like, am I doing this right? Like kind of looking like, am I smiling too much? Because the thing is, you're never told by the person that's shaming you what the right way to do it is. Just that what you're doing is wrong. Yeah. And that's the thing with shame, is like, we all fear being too much, particularly when, but all of us fear being too much. And yet no one ever told us what just the right amount is. Don't be invisible, go after your dreams, do all this stuff, put yourself out there, but don't be a show off. Like, it's this kind of dichotomy and ongoing balance, and that's what I think also is really exhausting and depleting. But these stories that I hear, when you're given this shame but you're not told how to be, but just that your essence, your natural essence, your natural responses are wrong. I mean, her father was unwell, he was in chronic pain every day. I often offer the something that gave me a lot of peace, which is, these people are probably doing the best they can with what they had, and that wasn't enough for you. Yeah. Like, two things can be true at the same time.
Absolutely. When did you feel seen, heard, accepted, understood, whatever the inverse of isolation is? Like, when did you actually start to feel that in life?
I think I probably had a few moments of that. I think I, thankfully, was quite naturally intelligent. So I think I worked, and I'd worked hard at that. I'd already worked out, right, I have to get out of here. Yeah. How am I going to get out of here? Get good grades means you can get a good enough job, means you can earn enough money, which means you can get out of Dodge. That was like my plan sort of from the off. So I think there was an element of validation, and I was good at work, hence the massive burnout. And I do think that I'm a very loyal person, a very, very, very loyal friend, which also, though, if you cross me, like, we're done. Yeah. Because I just can't, if I will give anything to any of my friends, anyone in my life, but it's not that someone betrays me that hurts me. It's the fact that I can never trust you again. And I personally can't, that's not something that I'm able to repair. If it's a big trust break, and if it's something that was like, obviously whatever, but not day-to-day life, but if it's a big trust break, or you find out that someone has not been cheering for you, then I will close back down. Yeah. And it probably is a bit of defensiveness, but also just I'm on my path now, I'm doing it. So yeah, I think there was times with like some really nice friendships as well that, people are seeing parts of you and celebrating that, and you're like, oh wow, okay, I'm obviously not this bad person either. Yeah. And I think like the more and more I evolve, and being a mother, becoming Amber's mum.
See, that was one of the things I wanted to bring up. I'm so glad you just brought this back up, right? Because like I'm sitting here listening to this story and I'm saying to myself, you are probably such an incredible parent.
Oh, thank you.
Just because of what you experienced, right? Like if you're looking at the overwhelming life experiences you had as a kid, like yes, rough 100%, but like a benefit of that was probably the parent you are today.
I hope so. I mean, I know, and I can own this, and you two will probably really get this. There are some areas that I am overprotective, and I'm okay with that.
Understandable, yeah.
I've heard too much.
Yeah.
So Amber does not go on sleepovers.
Yeah.
I have heard not 1, not 2, not 10 accounts of things that happen on sleepovers that have shamed and troubled and confused and isolated and humiliated and been the underlying theme of people's lives for years and years and years, and happily have people come and sleep over at my house. But that's, you know, like one friend at a time or something like that. But that is somewhere I'm overprotective. There's been a few occasions where I have eyes on her a lot, you know, and that is just, it's also just me and her somewhere. And, you know, I can completely own that, but I would rather err on cautious there. But when I was on the EMDR training course, Ams would have been quite little, and there's me and there's like a room full of all the therapists, right?
Yeah.
And we're all doing all the stuff. And they gave the example of, I don't know if you've ever seen the Super Nanny programs, British lady.
No, I don't think I have.
A British lady called Super Nanny, and her whole thing was the naughty step, which I'll sort of explain how it goes, because they use that as an example of how not to put shame on a child. Now, I never used this with Amber, but this was how it went. Child putting, I don't know, crayon on the wall, right? Please stop putting crayon on the wall. Does it again. Right, okay. Get
of
child.
Of course does it again.
Yeah, of course does it again. Get child, take them to an area. Like you can call it the naughty step. A friend of mine had a carpet tile, whatever, you know, like.
Yeah.
Anyway, go. You are here because you were drawing on the wall. I am going to set time out for 1 minute, and most critically, and then I'm coming back. So then child ideally sits in time out for a minute. It's like, oh, actually that wasn't great because I'm not feeling brilliant sat here now. Parent comes back after the exact time they mentioned. Now, what? Oh, sorry, mummy or daddy or whoever. Like, fine, great, let's move on. The reason that was so important to talk about shame is I was in a room with all of these adults who are therapists, who are trauma therapists, like the highest in their realm, everything else. The amount of grown-ups that said they had extraordinary trauma and shame from go to your room, get out of my sight. And they were like, I didn't know if I was allowed back out. I didn't know how long that was for. I didn't know if anyone was ever going to come and get me. I didn't know if I could eat again. I didn't know if I went back downstairs, what I might meet, how I'd be greeted or not. And the amount of grown-ups, it's a bit of a generational thing, but the amount of grown-ups that have fear and shame, abandonment, all of these things from being go to your room, and you maybe don't exactly know why. So like I say, I personally didn't do the naughty step thing, but what I do with Amber is if there's something that she's done that I always say, I'm never going to raise my voice if you're going to hurt yourself or someone else. That's it. Otherwise, like you do, kind of you do you. I try not to, I'm not really a shouter, but that's the only time. So let's go for running by the pool. Like, I'm just like, this is not a great idea. Like wet feet, slippery surface, like please don't do that. So I always separate out my love and her safety to the thing. So I start with, Amber, there is not 1 second that I don't love you. Not one. Never in question. I love you more than anything in this world, and I always will. However, the thing that you did, the separate thing, didn't like that, or that might hurt you because. And I say, but the first thing I say every time, there is never a second I don't love you. Never once. It's not what we're talking about here. My love for you is not in question. We're talking about the running by the pool.
Yeah. It's so interesting because when you were sharing, this happened twice in this conversation where, you were just elaborating that those therapists in the room felt, shame going to the room, didn't know if they were going to get out, didn't know if they were going to eat again. I'm actually on the complete opposite side of that, where I think I had shame or the I'm not lovable, those types of thoughts because I've never been sent to my room. Like, I just want to share that for the people listening, right? Because like, I feel on the opposite side of that, right? And it happened earlier. I forgot what we were talking about exactly, but I was like, I think you were sharing how like you felt shy. and like you might have like tucked yourself away and didn't want to be like out there. Again, complete opposite, right? I went out. I was the loudest person in the room. That wasn't my authentic self, but it was a part of me looking for something. And I think that was like really interesting, just like hearing you share that. I was like, wait, I was never punished, but that made me feel like I wasn't loved or cared for, you know?
I love that you've mentioned that. Thank you. Because actually there's with children, especially like naughty children or like gregarious behavior or something like that. And it's like, well, even negative attention is better than none. So like sometimes even if you put a boundary in, if you said, I need you home at this time, like, why is that? Because I love you so much. And I don't want you playing with those kids because they're dangerous or whatever. Or there is in the boundaries itself. It's like, I care about you enough to do this. You know, I love you enough to want to protect you and keep you safe. And sometimes the can happen in relationship as well, when someone's disinterested seemingly and you're like, are you not noticing me? Am I invisible here? Like, I'm telling you that I'm going here, or I'm with this person, or I'm doing this thing, and you're just like, whatevs, you know, or you're busy working or something like that, and you can feel really invisible, and then that can lead you to almost banging the drum a bit louder, you know. So absolutely. I'm 100%. Really glad that you named that. Because I think we're all just trying to find ourselves. Like, we're all trying to find like you know, like our own like benchmark somewhere. And then that's why sometimes I think we need to go, sometimes I need to go to the edges and like touch the walls, then I'll come back to my own natural. I've
been there many times. I'm learning a lot here right now. Just like, I know I'm sitting here with this, like I might look like the therapist, but I feel like I'm in therapy to an extent. I want to go back to the book. I'm sorry. I totally took us off track, but Unapologetic, May 13th. Why do you feel like this needs to be out in the world?
I don't think there is a book like this on the market, and a lot of people have read it, and I've been talking about it obviously like all week or 2 weeks now, nonstop. What I've done is I've given a voice to shame. And I think there are amazing how-to books on the market. Incredible. So many how-to books on your vagal nerve, you know, your polyvagal theory, like trauma work, everything, and they're fantastic. But I think that if you're suffering from shame, they're only going to do so much. I feel like we need to sort of change the approach. You know, I talked about like the inner critic and all these other things. Like, unless we get hold of our shame, unless we get shame out into the open and we start giving it some self-compassion, which, by the way, is putting it in the light and sharing something with somebody or just out loud to yourself. Until we do that, I think a lot of these other things, which are brilliant, aren't going to have the effect that they should, you know, or could. They act more like a Band-Aid on top of that we keep having to change on top of an open wound. And the responses I've had from it, the stories that are in it, as I mentioned, it's like part memoir, part manual, really. It's like my memoir throughout. I used to self-harm. I'm a therapist and I self-harmed. I mean, imagine that as shameful. So when my marriage was imploding, sort of the most stressful, anxious time of my life, I would scratch at my face until it bled in the shower. I would do it twice a day, ritualistically. That's in there very, very openly in the book. And what else is in there in the book, very openly, is my therapist's files. I've waived my own right to anonymity. Her files are in there from the time that she met me. Because I want to show people, if they feel ashamed and they're worried what someone will think of them, and they're worried about being judged, and Pia, my lovely therapist, her first impressions of me are in that book, from when I was doing something that I was so, it's OCD, it's a kind of addiction, it's got a name, you know, and I was so in the thick of that. And she never judged me. She never made me feel ashamed. But the raw uncut is in there between me and her. My divorce lawyer's in there talking about, you know, a lot of people, I had a theory, I think a lot of people stay in relationship because of shame. Like the person that's meant to love, honor and obey you is now in divorce, going to betray you. And the lawyers are kind of set about to weaponize shame. And he believes as well that a lot of people stay in relationship for the fear of the shame being weaponized against you. He works a lot with different cultures and religions as well, ultra high net worth, where, you know, intimate photographs or exchanges between a married couple are suddenly being sent to family members, and then it's not even about a divorce anymore. It's about being outside of your family and being ashamed. I've got like fertility experts in there. There's all of my clients, disordered eating patterns, sexual assault, bullying, frenemies, heartbreak, betrayal. It's all in there because I just want the sessions that I have, the things people say to me in a session, am I the only one?
Yeah.
No, you're not. And like, that's why this book needs to be there, because when I was like, again, the darkest time of my life, I used to go on this forum in the UK called Mumsnet. And it was like, I was looking for anything that sounded a bit like me. And what I was actually also looking for was some hope. I wanted to read something where someone went, and it worked out okay. That's what I wanted. Like, my daughter was 3 and I'm worried about fucking her up, right? Like, how fucked up is she going to be if I leave her father now? Like, how I was looking for anything, and I didn't find the exact, I was never going to find exactly me. But I actually had a bit of a 360 last week where I was sent something from Mumsnet where someone has mentioned me. This lady.
Wow.
Yeah, it was incredible. This lady had this horrible experience of betrayal, and someone in the comments said, follow Annalie Howling, because she, it was so special because she can reframe relationships. And I was just like, oh my God, wow. Because like, to think that this and the work that I'm doing can be helping the me that was scouring that thing, just looking for anything to kind of give me some permission to allow me to say out loud that things weren't okay and that I wasn't doing okay and I was hurting myself and I was hurt inside. I had to heal the inside to let the outside heal. That was an incredible feeling. And that's what this book is, because shame can only have hold of you for as long as you're isolated by it. It can only control you when you think you're the only one. It can only control you when you think you're too broken and there's no point trying. As soon as you see something, and that's why this book is like, everybody, it's not anyone's story, it's everyone's story, and it's so succinct and there's so much kind of power in it. And as soon as you read something, you go, oh my God, that's me. And as soon as you see that, you're like, well, it means I'm not alone, and that means there's hope.
Yeah. I'm curious, when it comes to having the courage to share, is there a danger to sharing? And the reason I ask that, like, what happens if you start to trauma bond or like stuff like that?
I'm really glad you asked that, because unfortunately, sometimes people do share, maybe with the wrong person, and then they are further shamed or shut down, which is kind of another way of doing it. Or maybe you try and speak to a family member or something and they're like, oh no, you're so sensitive. Oh, you're always so sensitive. Things like that. So again, I would say you don't have to share everything. Like I've drunk the Kool-Aid. Like, you talk a lot, you talk about your stuff. Like, I think people can look and be like, I can't see me ever being as able to talk about this as you are. That is fine. In the story, the lady that was sexually assaulted, she says, she actually writes, it's beautiful. She writes like a letter to the readers about what to do. And it's like, just say it to yourself to start with. Just say the thing that is bubbling under the surface all the time, every day, threatening every moment to come out, that's got you by the scruff of the neck. Just start by saying it out loud. Then she actually says, go on forums. Don't put your name out. Like, be there lurking if you want, or just write it down one day and just watch the comments come back in of people that there are forums that are, thankfully the internet can be a good place as well, where there are so many dedicated forums to whatever you may be feeling. And then after that, maybe you feel like you do want to speak to a professional. Maybe you feel like you want to start opening up to a trusted friend. And again, if you're not sure with a friend, just start slow. Like I said, I'm actually not feeling okay, Matt. I'm not really feeling like myself. And you're either going to be like, oh, you're all right. Pick yourself up. Come on, you'll be fine. Or you're going to go, okay, let me witness you, or let's just have a talk about that.
Yeah. Would that be your method for building courage?
Definitely. I mean, that's what worked for me, and it sounds like that's what happened with you, is you almost start having these thoughts are here. They're like banging on the door, and you just try and do things to keep them quiet, right? You just try and keep busy in the hope that you can outrun the thing that keeps popping up on loop.
100%.
So when you stop and go, right, I am going to be alone with myself, and I'm going to let this happen. I remember I was like, right, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to like raw dog it. Like, as in this is when I was like divorced and single. I'm like, properly, like not even chatting to anyone, like no validation. There is no good morning, beautiful message on my phone, like nothing. I'm raw dogging this experience. Like in the UK, we had kind of a double bounce pandemic. So we had like another second lockdown. And I did it then. I'm like, okay, no, things that I might try and use to distract myself. I'm going to be with myself. And I was like completely prepared for some, I don't even know what. And honestly, the thing that I probably spent so much time and energy trying to fight off wasn't that bad. Like the myself that I got to know, I really like her. And like the bit that the bit I always feel most sad about is how long I resisted myself for.
Ooh, that is so good. That is so good. So you're saying that you have like, or had a regret around like really seeing your authentic self?
How long I was trying to add the energy and effort and things I did to try and push that away, to keep it away.
That is so good.
Like, when I look back at that, like, I mean, not that I think of it, I'm very pleased with where I am right now in this moment, but if I think about, wow, how hard that was, the meeting myself, the being with me was peaceful in comparison to that. Very peaceful, actually. It was almost sort of just arrived and didn't leave. And it was like, oh, okay, like we live together now. This is cool. That was sort of how it felt. And compared to all the other stuff, I was like, wow. And then when you do get that peace, which I think you have as well, you just have this new benchmark for yourself. And that's when you kind of have quite natural boundaries, I think, about what just does and doesn't work for me, doesn't make anyone bad or wrong. This just isn't going to work for me. Like, here is my piece, here is my benchmark, this is me alone with me. I like that. Like, my boyfriend is amazing. I'm really lucky. He's incredible. But if it didn't work out because of life, I know I will be okay. Like, I like myself. I would not choose that, but I like myself.
Yeah.
We're okay.
You're making me realize how, and I don't think I've ever had this thought. You're making me realize how much effort goes into not being your authentic self.
The resistance, the effort of resisting you. And quite often, and I don't say this like judgmentally, because I see broken souls all the time, every day, the energy that goes into resisting your true self. Oh my God, if we can, and that is the shame that's underneath it.
Sorry for cutting you off there, but like, how did you know who your authentic self was?
I didn't, honestly. I think I'd tell you what, I think I'd had hints of it. So when my marriage was tanking, and again, you would have seen it's all in the book, but I went on any and every course, program, book, you name it. I mean, that's what this is. This is the thing that I needed in one.
Yeah. So
I digested everything, went on every course, did all the stuff. Female sexual empowerment courses, all of Gabor Mate's, all of Esther Perel's.
Love him too. Yeah.
Right. Everyone's stuff, talks, audiences, education, therapy, coaching. I did and I'm all in that field, right? So this is me kind of going out even more. And so this is the book that I needed in that moment. That's what this is as well. So I think what had happened for me to know that my marriage could no longer work and it not be anybody's fault was I was hoping to find the magic thing, the magic potion on one of these courses or books or whatever that I could bring back into my marriage and it would save it and everything would go away. And that didn't happen. Spoiler alert. Like, that didn't happen. But what did happen was I found in each one of those pieces of myself. And when I found her fully, she couldn't be in that relationship. Like, this me could not be in that relationship. That doesn't make anyone wrong. Like, I could never, in fact, it was very peaceful, like in the sense of I simply cannot exist in the container of this relationship and also wouldn't be able to meet my ex-husband's needs. Like, that just wouldn't work any further. So that was actually quite a relief. And I've never been more anxious than in the lead up to that time when I was when I was fighting the shame, when I was the elephants in the room, like, my God, there's like no more we can sweep under the rug, we're going to like trip over stuff. That was horrendous. That was so awful and anxiety inducing, and the resistance of all of that was horrendous. The energy, the torment, raw torment. As soon as I had realized that I found this me, and I didn't know where she was going to end up or how it was all going to be. And I never thought I'd be here with you and the boys, but I knew she couldn't be there anymore. And that was enough.
That is so powerful.
Thank you.
This has been great. I do have a few more questions. I want to respect time here.
Oh, I'm good.
But I do want to let everyone know Unapologetic is in the show notes of this episode. So we're making it super, super easy for you. All you have to do is click the link in the show notes to go and grab your copy of this book. May 13th. Make sure that you are doing that. But Annalie, if you've been getting asked a lot of questions, I'm sure, right? You're doing a whole bunch of press. You're on this tour. What is a question you wished more people would ask you?
Oh, that's nice.
And then furthermore, how would you answer it?
think not many people ask me about my relationship status now. It's not necessarily that's something that I think most people stay away from that.
Okay.
I don't know if people think that's off limits or
yeah.
Or people assume that I'm single. There's like this, maybe this, I give off like girl boss energy and like I'm definitely not anti-man. I wonder if that's a conception.
Well, I noted that right out of the gate, right? Like when you shared that story about 7-year-old version of you and what you experienced, I was like, I give you so much credit for not being anti-man, right? Like we embraced outside. I'm like, hey, I'm a hugger. You gave me a hug right away. Like there was like no like energy that was like negative whatsoever.
Yeah.
But what specifically about like relationship do you want people to ask you?
I think it's more maybe the conception or the preconception that a lot of people seem to assume that I'm single. So I mean, when I say that, I put videos out, obviously try to help people on Instagram, and then like, you get some people being like, oh, you'll be all right. You'll meet someone nice. And it's like, no, I have. It's all good. Like this is, or maybe it's the fact that people seem to think it's always about romantic relationship. You're like, no, friends can betray you. Or this was in response to someone saying that a business partner had done that. Or, I wonder if people sort of feel like, that I'm kind of in that space where I'm a bit anti, and I'm definitely not. I'm a lover.
Not.
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
You're a lover. When it comes to shame in relationships, can a relationship exist if an individual is still carrying shame on their soul?
Definitely. I mean, most of us are.
Let me reframe. A healthy relationship.
Okay. I'm going to say, like with most things, like any kind of wounding, if it's there, it is going to, especially with a partner, well, are you going to allow yourself to be intimate is the question. Because again, we can do a great job of being busy and being perfect and then not ever really showing up. But shame is a thing that, paradoxically, I would try and hide my shame from you because I don't want you to reject me and I want to appear perfect to you, right? So I'm not doing it to be Machiavelli in the slightest. I'm doing it because I'm so ashamed of my shame and myself. And I think if you see that and you see that part of me, you're not going to want to get to know me. So I'm going to try and be really, really, really perfect. And my God, I'm going to work at it, right? I'm really going to work at it. And someone else is probably doing the same thing. But paradoxically, what I'm doing is I'm actually denying connection because I'm not allowing you to witness me or see me in any way. So... and let's be honest, it's kind of exhausting, like, kind of keeping this together. And at some point, something usually gives, like physically, something has to come out the bag. Like a lot of people are maybe trying to play down or hide a health condition. Would be an example. They maybe feel ashamed that they're in some chronic pain or, I hear, all sorts of things that people are trying to, they're suffering in some way and they try and hide it because they want to appear like perfect. And if I was on the other side, that'd be like, oh my God, you've been in pain this whole time and I haven't known and I haven't been able to help you.
Right.
So we're denying the other person the opportunity to love and nurture and care for us as well. So it can, of course, exist, but it depends on what role you're playing and if you're fully showing up as well.
That's super helpful. Well, hey, I'm going to ask you one last question again, reminding people that the book, the link to that is in the show notes. But if Annalie made it to whatever year you want to live to, I know you were just at like a biohacking like health conference, so maybe you're going to live to like 150. This book reaches all the people you want. The next book reaches like you do everything you want to check off in this life, like everything you feel called to. But everyone that engages with you can only remember you for one thing. This one thing is like etched on the tombstone or whatever. What is the one thing, like advice-wise, the piece of advice you want to be remembered for?
I want everyone to know, and I love that this came from you, that it is possible to have a shameless life. And life on the other side of shame is spectacular.
I love that. Well, Annalie, thank you so much for this. Truly appreciate it. Again, you could check out the book in the show notes, socials, all of that good stuff. Anything else we should make people aware of? I'm sorry, I'm just talking about the book, but like what else do you have going on?
No, I mean, the book would be amazing. More pre-orders and buying the book, the better. Helps me. Single mum, help me. Single mum, help me. No, in all seriousness, please buy the book. And then that will also lead up to doing more tours. I mean, I want to be back in the States a lot. This is where I feel that I can do, because genuinely, we do have the National Health Service in the UK, whereby there is access even to EMDR and CBT for free for people. I know that isn't the case here. So I do feel very passionately about coming and authentically helping people alleviate shame.
I love that. I love that. Well, all links, socials, all of that good stuff is in the show notes. Annalie, thank you so much.
Thank you.